Welcome back, everybody, to the New York Knicks, MyNBA franchise here on NBA 2K23. We have made it to the 2023 NBA Draft. As you guys always know, I spend a ton of time working on my draft episodes for my series. This one no different. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I would greatly appreciate it. So last episode, we did our draft preview. We went over the lottery, which we unfortunately did not get lucky, staying with the number 11 pick. As of now, we have 6 total draft picks, more than anybody in the rest of the league, and that's 10% of the draft that we hold. We own picks 11 and 28 in the first round, along with 4 second-round picks. We also have 6 draft picks next year, and a lot of players still on contract who we can trade. So we have a lot of flexibility if we want to move up or down the board, or if we want to go out and trade for an established star. It's a pretty fun group of players who we've gone over throughout prospect profiles in the season, all sort of culminating in our draft preview in the last episode where we went through pretty much the entire draft class. We went over the mock drafts and whatnot as well. So if you missed that episode and want a preview of what you can expect to see today, I will leave a card at the top right of your screen so you can go and check that out. Our New York Knicks have multiple different angles we can look at going into this draft. We can keep all of our draft picks and add 6 new rookies, which feels like a lot, but it's a bunch of different swings, and hopefully we can connect on a few of them and grab some good players. We can look to trade up for a top prospect. We certainly have the ammunition to do it, and we also have the ammo to go out and trade for a star. This is the New York Knicks. This is one of the biggest capitals in the United States and the world. Star players want to play in New York City. And although the Knicks have missed hilariously going after stars in recent years, maybe we can change that this offseason. So before we get started, I do want to go over some trades around the league, which could change some things up for the draft. Michael Porter Jr. is on his way to Sacramento. He had a disappointing season in Denver. He was fully healthy and did not play well. And the Nuggets kind of feel like it's best to move on from him. He's had trouble staying on the floor. This year, even when he did stay on the floor, he didn't play very well. As for the Kings, they'll be giving up Malik Monk, the 14th pick, and a future first-rounder. Michael Porter Jr. has a lot of potential, and he's still a pretty good player. The Kings overperformed this season, grabbing the 7th seed in the Western Conference before losing in the play-in tournament. So they are serious about building a winner around De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Keegan Murray, and they're adding another really solid piece with Michael Porter Jr. Yusuf Nurkic is on his way to the Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis is trying to add another piece. Brandon Clark and Steven Adams are both free agents, and the Blazers are trying to get younger as they add Jake LaRavia and a late first-round pick. We've got a straight-up swap here. Gordon Hayward back to the Celtics for Derek White. Both players underperformed last year. I think a change of scenery for both of them could suit them well. The Celtics get a better player, but the Hornets get someone who's younger and opens up cap flexibility for them for the future. Now we get to the big trade. DeAndre Ayton is on the move to the New Orleans Pelicans. So Ayton never really wanted to stay in Phoenix, but the Suns matched a maximum offer from the Pacers last year in free agency. There's obviously some clear tension between Ayton and the Suns, and that marriage kind of just needs to be broken up. So the Pelicans will be giving away Jonas Valanciunas, who's a really good starting center, Devontae Graham, 2 first-round picks, including 1 from the Lakers this year, number 17 overall, and 2 second-round picks. None of those pieces are overly exciting for Phoenix, but they're getting a lot of interesting assets. Jonas Valanciunas is a better offensive player than DeAndre Ayton, and overall he's not really much worse. Along with that, 2 first-round picks, including 1 in the middle of the draft this year, is pretty nice. And for the Pelicans, you're adding another star player to join forces with McCollum, Zion, and Brandon Ingram. So those are going to be the moves made prior to the draft. No trades yet for the Knicks. This doesn't mean we will be opposed to making trades once we get into the draft, but there wasn't really any moves I wanted to make right now. All right, I think we should get this party started, shall we? The 2023 NBA Draft is now officially open, and the Houston Rockets, who won the draft lottery, will get the number 1 pick. You got to assume they're going to draft Christopher Killebrew, the generational talent out of Kansas, but we'll see who they end up choosing. With the first pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Jaden Lewis-Cameron. Okay, hello. I don't think anybody expected this pick at all. So the Rockets decide to throw as a total bombshell with the number 1 pick. Christopher Killebrew has been projected as the number 1 pick the entire season, and the Rockets decide not to choose him. I've described Jaden Lewis-Cameron as the wild card of this draft class because he was supposed to play for Overtime Elite this year, but he got injured and missed the entire season, so he has not played competitive basketball since his senior season of high school. Jaden Lewis-Cameron's a really talented point forward, and I think he is a pretty good fit on Houston's roster, but I don't get this at all. You have a generational player on the board and you don't pick him. What type of dark magic is Danny Ainge working in Utah because the Jazz somehow land Christopher Killebrew at the second overall pick? The Utah Jazz have to be tickled pink by this revelation here. Once they lost the draft lottery, there's no way they thought they could have expected to select Christopher Killebrew, but he falls to them with the number 2 pick. Killebrew is a 7'3" center with handles, a jump shot, unbelievable length, and unbelievable defense. Scouts around the league have been coveting this kid for years, yet he doesn't go number 1, which is mind-blowing. With the 3rd pick, the Blazers will select Roman Bokman out of Wisconsin. I didn't think Bokman would be a top 3 pick, but I really don't mind this selection for Portland. I think he's a really good fit for their roster. They just traded away Yusuf Nurkic, so they could use some size. And Bokman here is a really solid interior defender, good rebounder, improving scorer. I think he'll be able to slide right into the center position and replace the production that Yusuf Nurkic brought. With the 4th pick, the San Antonio Spurs select Buzz Wigginton III from Duke University. We all know his legendary father, Buzz Wigginton Jr., who was the number 1 pick in our Seattle Sonics MyNBA franchise last year. Buzz Wigginton Jr. was a 6'11" power forward who could do everything for you. He could space the floor, drive to the basket, swing the ball out, and was an excellent defender. Buzz Wigginton Jr. won 17 NBA championships along with 8 NBA MVPs, both all-time records. He is now the general manager of the New York Knicks, so unfortunately for him, he will not get the opportunity to draft his son. Buzz Wigginton III is a very different player than his dad. Different position, different jersey number, different play style, different everything, but he's a really, really gifted offensive player, one of the best jump shooters in the class. He was getting no first-round buzz before the season, but he dominated in March Madness, leading Duke to winning the national championship. He dominated in the Combine and has earned being a top 5 pick. With the 5th pick, the Orlando Magic select Zymer Donaldson out of Auburn. I like this pick for the Magic. I think Donaldson's a good fit through their roster because they need somebody who can be a true alpha scorer on the wing, and Donaldson is one of the best 3-level scorers in the draft. This is somebody who can drive to the basket, and he can space the floor and hit the 3 off the dribble and off the catch. Needs to improve a little bit as a defender, but he's not a total liability on that end of the floor, and he's a pretty good playmaker as well, something that the Magic have really valued during their rebuild. They have so many talented young pieces on their roster. With the 6th pick, the Washington Wizards select Jamison Zander from Duke University. The 2nd Duke player is off the board, and let me tell you, there's going to be a lot more coming because this year's Duke roster was absolutely loaded. Jamison Zander was a player who I thought the Knicks would have really coveted at 11, and I did not expect him to go this early in the draft, but I don't think it's a bad pick by the Wizards because I think he's a really talented player. He needs to improve a little bit defensively, but he's a high-level athlete and a high-level scorer, and I think he's going to be a really good wing in the NBA. I think he's going to be a great piece for the Washington Wizards going forward. With the 7th pick, the Charlotte Hornets select Caden Frost from the University of Kentucky. This is another player who has skyrocketed up draft boards throughout the season. Frost is a very interesting build. He's a 6'9" wing, but he's more the big man. He's a really good interior defender, and I think he'll play more of the power forward role in the NBA early on, but he does have the ability to space the floor and hit the 3-ball. Very rare and unique skill set. I'm curious to see how the Hornets are going to ultimately end up using him going forward. Only a few picks away from the Knicks. With the 8th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Wally Knotts III out of Tennessee. Wally Knotts III had no business falling this far in the draft. I thought he was going to be a top 5 pick. The Knicks were really hoping he'd make it a few more picks to number 11, but ultimately the Knicks never realistically should have expected him to fall that far. Knotts is one of the highest rated players in the draft. Excellent defender, both on the perimeter and down low. He's an improving offensive player who really scored the ball at a high level this year for the Vols. And again, had no business not being a top 5 pick. This is a fantastic selection by the Thunder. So only 3 picks away, the Pacers at number 9 select Milton Surratt out of Gonzaga. The Red Rifle is a Pacer. Surratt is one of the best 3-point shooters in this class, obviously nicknamed the Red Rifle, as you can imagine, because of his red afro. He needs to improve his game outside of this shooting, but if nothing else, he can space the floor for these other young scorers on this roster, such as Tyrese Halliburton and Benedict Mathurin. One more pick, the Pistons are the only team standing in front of the Knicks. So with the 10th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the Detroit Pistons select Banyu Wibawa from the University of North Carolina. So Wibawa is the pick here at 10. I'm a little bit surprised by this selection for the Pistons. I think Detroit really should have looked to add some talent to the wings. They've got plenty of talent at guard. They've invested a lot down low with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart as first-rounders within recent seasons. So with the selection of Wibawa, does this mean that Isaiah Stewart, a player who the Knicks tried to trade for at the deadline, or Jalen Duren, a player the Knicks almost drafted last year, could one or both of those guys be available for future trade? That'll be something to monitor as we go through the rest of the offseason. Okay, so the Knicks are now on the clock here with the number 11 overall selection. They decided not to ultimately move up because they felt like the draft board played pretty well in their favor, and there are a few guys they really like. It doesn't hurt to do some due diligence and check out some of the available trades because there are 28 teams interested in the selection. But most of these trades are utter garbage, so I don't think we're going to make a move. I think we're going to keep this pick and draft a player. This is a very important selection because it's the first pick of the series, and this draft pick is really going to set the tone of the foundation we're looking to build for this organization going forward. There were a number of surprises in the top 10, so because of that, there are some players like Levi Beauregard and Cesar DiCarlo who were projected to go in the top 10 who are still available for us to pick here. We could also look at guys like Ches Reggingworth and Woozy Bailey as well, who were originally projected at this range. All right, let's do this. With the 11th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Cesar DiCarlo, a point guard from Italy. He last played for Virtus Bologna in Bologna, Italy. So Cesar DiCarlo will be our first draft pick of the series and possibly the face of our organization going forward. So this is a very interesting pick for a number of reasons. Originally, DiCarlo was a 71 overall, but that rating and most of these grades are not right because he is currently injured. If you remember, he tore his Achilles back in January, so because of that, he is not going to be available for the first half of the season with the Knicks, at least. DiCarlo is actually going to be a 78 overall when healthy, and if you look at his grades, I think he's a really talented player. For most of the season, he was projected as the number 2 pick in the draft behind Christopher Killebrew. However, the Achilles tear really took him off of teams' boards, but I still think he is worth the selection here at 11. Although it's a big risk, he may never be the same player. I'm confident that he can be. DiCarlo's had a lot of success, not just with Virtus Bologna, but also the Italian national team. He's a very gifted offensive player, solid explosiveness. He doesn't have the quickest first step like a Jaden Ivey or a Ja Morant, but he is a high-level athlete, and hopefully that aspect of his game won't be taken away with the Achilles tear. He's not a great shooter yet. He is still improving in that aspect, but his playmaking ability is certainly his best asset on the offensive end of the floor. He is certainly giving an effort to improve as a shooter, which is certainly what you want to see, but as of now, he's just not really a great jump shooter at this point in time at all, and he's got a lot of work to do, not just from 3, but really anywhere outside of the paint. Defensively, he's a really, really solid perimeter defender with good size and length, coming in at around 6'4", with a plus wingspan. I don't think he's ever going to be an all-NBA defender, and again, the Achilles tear could help him lose some quickness on that end of the floor, but I do see him being a plus defender as his career goes on. So if he can improve his jump shot and he doesn't lose too much explosiveness from the Achilles tear, I'm confident he can be a really good player. Prior to the Achilles injury, he was going to be a top 3 pick, so obviously there's a lot of talent here, and the Knicks are willing to take the gamble. DiCarlo sees the floor so well for somebody who's 19 years old. He's gotten to play for the EuroLeague, which is a professional basketball league, so he's gotten the opportunity to play against physical grown men already, which I think is going to help with the learning curve of getting to the NBA once he eventually starts playing again, once he's fully healthy from the Achilles tear. So again, this is a big risk, but it's a risk that I think really could pay off in a major way for the Knicks. All right, let's move forward now. The Raptors with the 12th pick will be trading out of this selection. The Charlotte Hornets will be moving up. The Raptors will be receiving Terry Rozier and a future first-round pick. This is ironic because I almost had the Hornets trade Terry Rozier prior to the draft, and the Raptors were one of the teams that I specifically thought about. So it kind of works out here that Terry Rozier is going to end up as a Raptor. The Hornets have decided to move up for J.R. Johnson, a talented wing out of the University of Kentucky. I'm a little bit surprised he went this high. I think some of his grades are a little bit disrespectful. I do think he is a pretty good shooter and a pretty solid defender. But according to Rob Mahoney, J.R. Johnson was supposed to go 10 picks ago, which is not true. They're letting anybody do mock drafts these days. I thought he was going to go in 10 picks from now. The Suns at 13 select Christian Harris out of Temple, one of the best pure scorers in this draft class. Not a great defensive player, but he is a gifted scorer on the offensive end of the floor. The Suns have another selection coming up pretty soon that they got in the DeAndre Ayton trade, so we'll see what they look to do there. The final lottery selection belongs to the Denver Nuggets, and they will select Woozy Bailey from Duke University. The third Duke player is off the board here in the lottery. The Nuggets acquired this pick at the beginning of the episode from the Kings in exchange for Michael Porter Jr., so Woozy Bailey will essentially be the MPJ replacement. Woozy Bailey is a very well-rounded player without a ton of weaknesses, so because of that, I think he's going to be a perfect fit on a contending team such as the Denver Nuggets. Minnesota Timberwolves are on the board here at 15, and they select Alonzo Corbett out of the Ohio State University. I think Corbett's going to be a good fit for this roster because both Derrick Rose and D'Angelo Russell are both free agents. The Timberwolves need talent in the backcourt, and Corbett's a very talented combo guard who can run an offense. He can create shots for himself, and he can also shoot off of the catch as well. For Brooklyn Nets at 16, select Levi Beauregard from Germany. What a steal for the Nets. If not Cesar DiCarlo, Levi Beauregard was the next highest player on the Knicks board with the 11th selection. I thought he was going to go in the top 10. I don't know how he fell to the 16th pick, as he ends up being an 80 overall, one of the highest rated players in the draft. So the Nets got a major steal, somebody who can help them win right away and could also be a really good trade chip if they ever go out and get another star. With the 17th pick, the Phoenix Suns select Ches Regenworth out of Illinois. Another really good value selection. Regenworth was a player who I thought the Knicks would really consider at 11 if the board didn't play out their way. Not a consistent scorer, but a high-level athlete and somebody who I think has a lot of upside going forward for the Phoenix Suns. That'll bring up the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have 3 first-round selections this year, and they select Enzo Valentino out of Italy. Another Italian player off the board. I think the Thunder are killing it so far in the draft. They somehow stole Wally Knox at pick 8, and now they get Enzo Valentino, an easy lottery talent outside of the lottery. Valentino is one of the best playmakers in this class. He's an improving scorer and a really solid defender. The Los Angeles Clippers now on the board at 19, and they will select Marcel Micoud out of France. Micoud was originally projected to go in the mid to late second round, but I think his talent lines a lot more at this range as he ends up being a 76 overall. Great scoring touch from inside the arc along with pretty good post defense. I think Micoud will be able to give the Clippers some really good minutes early on as a rookie. So the Knicks are now trying to trade up. We're offering the Magic 2 of our 4 second rounders and Vlatko Cancar for the 21st pick. They say no. I move over, give the same offer to the Thunder, who are picking at number 22, and they accept. So the Knicks have moved up to the 22nd pick, while the Thunder add even more draft picks because that's what they do. So clearly there's a player the Knicks are eyeing up who they really want. That player is not Trey Bell, but this is still a really good pick for the Atlanta Hawks, and Bell could have been a good backup option if the player they really want goes with this next pick to Orlando. Bell's a really good 3-and-D player, one of the best shooters in the class, good playmaker, good defensive player. Very nice selection by the Hawks. The Orlando Magic at pick 21 select Clay Paris out of Lafayette College in eastern Pennsylvania. So Paris will be Orlando's second selection. Clearly they're prioritizing adding talent on the wings, which I think makes a lot of sense. They've got plenty of guys in the front court. They've got plenty of guys on the back court. So now they add some wings with Zamir Donaldson and now Clay Paris. So the Knicks are on the board at 22, a little bit of a surprising move as they move up into the draft. Keep in mind, they still have picked 28 as well. They did not trade away that pick to move up to this selection. The Knicks feel that there's a player they really want and are willing to give up 2 of their second-round picks in order to do so. Again, I checked the trade finder. There were some interesting offers, including Ochai Agbaji from the Jazz. I would love nothing more than to reunite him with Christian Brown. But, again, there's a player I really wanted, so I think we're going to stick with this pick and select the player we've been targeting. There are a lot of good players on the board, but there's one guy in specific who really fits this roster. With the 22nd pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Patrick Feinstein from Colorado. So a very interesting move here for the Knicks to move up for Feinstein, a very talented 3-and-D wing who comes in as a 75 overall. He's a 3-level scorer who can defend on the perimeter and in the post. He's 6'8", 240 pounds. He's got an NBA body right away, and I think he's going to be ready to contribute on day one. This is somebody who can score the basketball from everywhere on the floor. He can drive to the basket. He can shoot the three. A little bit inconsistent at times as a scorer, but especially from inside the arc, really, really impressive. He's a pretty solid passer as well. You guys know I like to add forwards who can create for others, and Feinstein can certainly do that. His defense is the main reason why we drafted him. Look at this possession here. Goes off the pick. Tight man-to-man defense here, forcing him to pass it out to an open shooter. And then down low, not afraid to get physical with the big man. Multiple shot contests leading to the big man not making the shot. This possession, great shot contest on the perimeter, and here goes Feinstein flying down the floor on the perimeter. Really good athlete in transition. I think he's going to be a perfect fit off the bench as a role player, and he could be a starter down the line for this team going forward. One of the most NBA-ready players in the draft. So now at 23, the Houston Rockets will be selecting, oh God, I'm going to have to say this, aren't I? Lagasha Verson Sainhatkantunga combo. Wow, that actually wasn't really that bad. So this kid coming out of China is only 18 years old. He's the youngest player in the entire draft. So the Rockets are certainly taking a flyer, but if he develops, I think the ceiling is really high. So the Rockets draft him, along with Jaden Lewis-Cameron here in the first round. At pick 24, the Orlando Magic select Justice Baxter out of UCLA. The Magic are really making the most of their 3 first-round picks, adding a very talented young guard to the fold. Baxter's not a great three-point shooter, but the rest of his game looks really promising. Good score from inside the arc, good playmaker, good defender. Could this pick signal somebody like Jalen Suggs or Markelle Fultz sort of as the odd man looking out? And could one of those two players be on the trade block going forward? With the 25th pick, the Golden State Warriors will be selecting Paul Gibbons out of Oregon. Gibbons is a 7'3" stretch big man who can space the floor like no other. The rest of his game could use a little bit of work, although he is a good rebounder, so somebody who can rebound and can shoot with his size seems like a Warriors type of pick, I'm not going to lie. With the 26th pick, the Portland Trail Blazers select Harrison Gretsch out of the University of North Carolina. I know a lot of people in the comments really liked Gretsch as a fit for the Knicks. I understand why. He's not a consistent scorer, but defensively he's fantastic. Great rebounder, great playmaker as well. If he improves the shot, he's going to be awesome. So I really like that pick for the Blazers. One pick away, the Celtics at 27 select Emmanuel Gonzalez Soto from Puerto Rico. He's a very small player for a power forward, only 6'5". The Celtics are kind of hoping he can be a PJ Tucker type of player for them, so I think this could be a pretty interesting pick for them. So the Knicks are on the board here at 28 with their 3rd first-rounder of the day. This pick coming from the Mavericks in the Kristaps Porzingis trade a number of seasons ago. So we have 53 trade offers. I don't know how that makes sense because there's 30 NBA teams and one of them is us. So again, the offers are not great. We can get Ochai Agbaji again, which I really want to, but we're not. And then I noticed all the excess trade offers just had the 22nd pick in them, which doesn't make sense because we already used the 22nd pick, but oh well. We're going to keep this pick. We're not going to trade it away. With the 28th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks will select center Ahmed Kabongo from the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Knicks have been wanting to add some size for a while, and they finally get an opportunity to do it with Kabongo, who comes in as a 76 overall. Great value. Kabongo is a monster down low on the interior defensively, and he's going to be a really solid, high-energy big off the bench for the Knicks, and who knows, maybe he could be the starting center in the long term. This is the exact type of player the Knicks have been wanting to get for a while. Since we were about 20 games into the season, I've been saying the Knicks need a physical, down-low, tough big man like this. So I think this is a perfect fit of team and player late in the first round. When Mitchell Robinson's off the floor, Kabongo will be able to give us the exact same skill set that Mitchell Robinson provides. Somebody who's an efficient scorer inside, who can block shots like that one, and provide really good defense. Obviously, it's nice to have bigs who can, stretch the floor and are talented offensively, but in my opinion, at least for my type of team building, I don't think I really need that. I just like to have a center who can be an anchor down low, and that's exactly what Kabongo can do. He's from the Congo, but he does have French citizenship and plays for the French national team. Really, really good pick. I think the Knicks have done a fantastic job with their 3 first-rounders. At pick 29, the Los Angeles Lakers will select Ty Williams out of Michigan. So the Knicks currently have 2 second-round picks. They traded 2 of them away to move up for Feinstein. And Ty Williams was the number 1 player on our board going into the second round. So it's unfortunate that he is selected here. Also 76 overall. So really good late first-round pick by the Lakers, who are always looking to add shooting. With the 30th pick, the Indiana Pacers select Jeliah Johnson from North Carolina. Another Tar Heel here in the first round. Johnson's a gifted defensive player, whether it's on the perimeter or down low. The Magic prioritize shooting with their top pick, and they prioritize defense here with their second pick. So that's going to wrap up the first round of the 2023 NBA Draft. Overall, a really fun first round. Certainly some surprises early on. In particular, Jaden Lewis-Cameron going number 1 overall over Christopher Killebrew. The Knicks entered with picks 11 and 28 and ultimately kept both of those picks going with a pair of international players. Cesar Carlo, of course, at 11, one of the more riskier players in the draft of his injury, but one of the most talented ones as well. And then Ahmed Kabongo, the center, at 28. We also moved up to pick 22 to select Patrick Feinstein out of Colorado, giving up 2 of our 4 second-round picks. We still own 2 additional second-rounders, the 4th pick in the second round and the 9th pick in the second round. The 2 second-rounders we gave away were 11 and 13, so we still own 2 of the top 10 second-rounders. With the 31st pick, the Boston Celtics select Zaza Habebe, one of the best defensive players in this draft out of Wisconsin. We're going to move a little bit quicker here in the second round. I'll briefly talk about each pick. The Spurs at 32 go with Kawasi Key out of Hawaii. Very talented young shooter. He can stretch the floor, gives the Spurs offense more spacing. With the 33rd pick, the Orlando Magic select Zimbembe Zumoga, a point guard out of South Africa. Very talented young player. The Magic adding another guard to their draft class. So that'll bring up the Knicks here at 34 with the 4th selection in the second round. We decided not to trade the pick, and we're going to choose a human. With the 34th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Jackson Watkins out of the University of Oregon. So the Knicks are going to add some talent to the backcourt with Watkins, a 6'6 combo guard, who's a fantastic playmaker and defender. Not a great scorer yet, but if he can improve that jump shot, I think this could be a total steal in the early portion of the second round. I think Watkins will have an opportunity for fight for minutes at the end of the bench right away on day 1 and could be a really interesting long-term piece. At only 19 years old, Watkins is a very smart player for his age. Although he's built more like a 2 guard, he has the ability to run the point because he sees the floor so well and is a great passer. Look at him in transition here, fighting off the defender for the layup. Now, he's not a great scorer. He's very inefficient. He's not horrible from inside the arc. He can drive to the basket and, shoot from mid-range, but the name of his game on offense is his passing ability. One of the best overall playmakers in this draft class. Again, look at that dart inside for the big man who throws it down. Watkins' weakness, as I said earlier, is his 3-point shooting. If he can improve that jumper, I think he's going to be a stud. So I think this pick really could work out for the Knicks if he can develop a jumper. So the Knicks used their first of 2 second-round picks on Jackson Watkins out of Oregon, and the Knicks pick again in like 5 picks or so. At pick 35, the Boston Celtics select Jason Clipso, a point guard out of Auburn. Another really, really good playmaker, very solid point guard. I think he'll be perfect as a backup point guard, somebody who can create instant offense. The Thunder select Xavier Kingsley, a 6'10" big man out of Creighton, looking to add some size to back up Chet Holmgren, their high first-round pick last year. The Sixers, with back-to-back picks at 37, pick Sharis Satiriou out of Greece, a 6'5" forward who I think could be a really good value pick for them. Very talented all-around player. And then at 38, they select Freddie Prinze Jr., a point guard out of the University of Kentucky, another highly gifted offensive player, one of the better passers in this class. So the Knicks are on the board with the 39th pick. As of now, this could be the Knicks' final selection of the day, unless they were to trade back into the draft. So with this pick, there were two guys who I was really targeting. Dominic Cherry, a point guard out of Kentucky. I think he's a very interesting pick. And then also Splash Mayo out of Duke. So it looks like we're going to go with a big school player here, but the question is, which one is it going to be with the Knicks' final selection of the day as of now? With the 39th pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks will select shooting guard Splash Mayo from Duke University. Another Duke player is off the board, and this means the Knicks, if they re-sign Cam Reddish, will have 5 Duke players on the roster next year. Splash Mayo comes in as a 59 overall, but again, his rating and his grades are off because of an injury. Just like Cesar DiCarlo, this young man is going to miss a large portion of the season. He's actually going to come in as a 74 overall when healthy. So for a second-round pick, gotta say that's pretty good value. So why did Splash Mayo fall this far? Because he's another guy who ends up going way later than projected because of an injury. He suffered a scary spinal injury back in February against NC State, which at the time, many doctors believed he may never be able to play basketball again. A lot of the tests have come back in his favor, and it seems like he's progressing really well. He's working super hard in his rehab. He's really digging at it to come back, and if all goes well, he should be able to come back by the end of this season. If he doesn't come back, he'd still be an interesting long-term investment for the future. When he's on the floor, he's a gifted shooter. One of the best three-point shooters in this class. He can create off the dribble. He can create off the catch. He's a really well-rounded shooter, and the Knicks really haven't prioritized spacing in this draft class. So to get somebody who can be a knockdown three-point shooter off the bench is really nice. Obviously, the blue hair is super cool. Is he going to keep the blue hair in the NBA? I don't know. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. One of the Knicks colors is blue, so I guess it does work. He's an improving defender. Not great on that end of the floor, but not necessarily a liability either. So his sharpshooting ability and his defensive talent is going to be solid. Not an explosive athlete, doesn't necessarily play with his head above the rim. Most of his offense comes beyond the three-point line. And I think he'll be a good backup wing who can shoot the ball and get some offense going for the second unit. With the 40th pick, the Kings select Ando Kazuki from Japan. Talented young wing. The Kings really prioritizing adding wings here. The Thunder select Remy Bouvier out of France. Another fantastic value pick for the Kings. I think Bouvier is a first-round talent. The Thunder have dominated this draft. Shout out to Sam Presti. The Memphis Grizzlies at 42 select Shaquille Owens, a 7'3" center out of Duke. So they trade for Nurkic, and they add some more talent in the front court of Owens, likely suggesting that Steven Adams and Brandon Clark could be out the door. Jason Oliver Thomas out of Minnesota is the pick to the Thunder here at 43. Again, really good value for OKC. The Nets select Christian Briggs, a 7'1" center out of Duke. This is the 6th Duke player off the board and the 3rd one to go in the last 4 picks. Benji Gardner out of Texas, a forward, is the selection to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Spurs at 46 select Frank Owens from the Fighting Elon Musks. Highly athletic player, could be something interesting down the line. The Wizards select Jethro Quispe from Peru, one of the best catch-and-shoot players in the class. With his jump shot, I think he'll be a steal at this stage in the draft. Carol Grajic out of Memphis, a big man, is the pick to the Lakers at 48, another pretty good value pick. Angelo Saldaderi out of Italy, the 3rd Italian-born player off the board to the Kings. The Hawks select Wenglen Wall, a center out of Duke, the 3rd Duke center to go in the last 6 picks. So the Lakers are on the board at 51, but not for long. The Knicks are moving back into this spot. All they got to do is trade a 2026 second-rounder. As I said when we were picking Splash Mayo, there was another player we were considering with him, and that player is still on the board, so, well, there's not really much secret to who the Knicks are picking. With the 51st pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select point guard Dominic Cherry out of the University of Kentucky. The Knicks almost picked Cherry 10 selections ago, and with him still being on the board, the Knicks figure, why not go up and move up for him, only giving up a future second-round pick in 3 years from now. Cherry is a 73 overall, really solid value here for the 51st pick. Very, very talented young point guard. Now, there are some character issues with this young man, which is why he ultimately was not projected to go as high as his talent suggests, but I do really like his skill set. He doesn't really have much off-ball value, which isn't ideal, because our top pick, Cesar DiCarlo, also doesn't really have much off-ball value. But I think Dominic Cherry could be a good backup point guard for the second unit. When Jalen Brunson got injured last year, we didn't really have a true point guard on the roster, and that was a problem. So the Knicks are prioritizing getting somebody who can see the floor, who can play make, who can score the ball. He's not a particularly good three-point shooter, but the rest of his offensive game is solid, and defensively, he's pretty solid too. If he can improve that three-point jump shot, I think he could be a pretty good player. Certainly a steal, considering his draft selection here at 51 overall. So the Knicks entered this draft with 6 picks, and they're going to leave it with 6 new rookies. That's a lot of players. Only 9 more picks to go. We'll go through these selections quickly. The Thunder at 52 pick Bryson Potts out of Memphis, a player projected to go in the first round, so pretty solid value here late in the second. The Bucks pick Brendan Blaze out of Duke. I think this is the 8th Duke player off the board, if my math serves me well. The Utah Jazz pick Kyrell Camby, a 7'7" big man from the Congo. So the Jazz's 2 draft picks are 7'3" and 7'7". I think it's fair to say they want to add size. The Sixers pick Vachenko Dali, one of the youngest players in the draft out of Tennessee. Another player I kind of thought about here in the second round. I really like his upside and his defensive versatility. So not great seeing one of our rivals making a nice pick. The Bucks pick Zeph Rogers from the University of Illinois Chicago, a player who I think should have gone probably more towards the early portion of the second round. Wesley Thorpe out of Germany, a 5'9" stubby point guard to the Grizzlies. The Wizards pick Darius Holman, a talented point guard of Illinois, one of the better shooters in the draft class. The Indiana Pacers pick Harry Bruce out of Australia, solid young wing. And then with Mr. Irrelevant, the Hawks select Maltos Sidios out of East Carolina University. So there you go. That is the second round. The Knicks entered the draft with 4 second-rounders. They entered the second round with 2 second-rounders, and they ultimately end up with 3 second-rounders. Jackson Watkins, Splash Mayo, and Dominic Cherry are all added to the team. When we went into the second round, those were my 3 highest players on the board. After we selected Kabongo at 28, the 4 guys I was really eyeing up were the 3 guys we drafted, and Ty Williams, who went with the 29th pick right after Kabongo. So, in my opinion, we drafted the 3 best players in the second round. I can see how that's biased because I'm making the decisions here, but those were the highest 3 players on my board in the second round. So, I think it's fair to say round 2 ended up working out pretty well for us. And you could argue the Knicks got 6 of the top 35 players in the draft class. I think that's pretty good value. Now, yes, 2 of them are hobbling in with serious injuries. Splash Mayo and Cesar DiCarlo are both going to miss most of the year, and who knows if they're ever going to be the same players they once were. Let's take a look at some of the other drafts around the league. The Nets were big winners with Beauregard. The Magic had a fantastic draft. The Nuggets, I thought, had a really good pick with Uzi Bailey. Indiana did a pretty solid job. The Pistons made a surprising pick with Bawa, a talented player. The Rockets, obviously, with the shock of the night, picking Jaden Lewis-Cameron, number 1 overall. Buzz Wigginton III going to the Spurs. He's going to be their franchise point guard. The Phoenix Suns did a great job with Harrison Regenworth. The Thunder, like us, ended up with 6 new rookies, and they hit grand slam with this draft. Excellent value, particularly with Valentino, who's a 78, and Knotts, who is an 80. 2 of the highest-rated players in the draft. Minnesota, I thought, did a pretty good job. Portland, I thought, did a pretty good job with their 2 first-round picks with Boakman and Gretsch. Warriors had a solid first-rounder. The Wizards, I think, come out as draft winners. Cuspe, Hallman, and Xander are all really good value for where they were picked. The Sixers made the most of their 3 second-round picks. The Bucks, I thought, did pretty solid late in the second round. Boston really focusing on adding size along with Calypso, the point guard in the second round. McCoo for the Clippers, good value pick. The Grizzlies, I thought Shaq Owens was a nice pick. I think he'll be a good depth piece. The Hawks did a good job. Trey Bell, really good value at 20. He's going to be a very good role player. The Hornets adding some talent on the wings with 2 players out of Kentucky. The Jazz lucking into Christopher Killebrew. And that brings us back to the Knicks. overall, I really like our rookie class. I really like how we executed here during the draft. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Next episode, we're going to get through the rest of the offseason, specifically free agency, which should be fun. Again, the next big market, big destination. So we'll wrap up the offseason and give ourselves a really fun team, hopefully, going into Season 2. That'll be it. Peace out.